Hey, top of the morning, folks. Chris Rockwell here. Tuesday, July 29th. It's been hot. Hot out. It's hot. It's been in the hundreds. I don't know what. Once you get past 100 in Northern California or the Valley, it, it, it just starts to get to a point where working outside and everything else just becomes a lot harder. This is what I remember as far as football practice. This is when it would all start, man. And you strap a helmet and pads on in 100+ degree weather. You do that twice a day, and you've got coaches yelling at you and screaming at you, and fatigue and pain and injuries and mental fatigue, mental breakdown, and the mental test to see how far we could be pushed. Most, and this was the time of year in college football where these loud talking, a lot of talk, a lot of this. A lot of these people would show up to camp. These guys, big time players from all over the country, full scholarships, and they had a lot to say, and a lot of them looked good, like prototypes, big, strong, fast. I mean, prototypes. And something about the heat and the discipline and the intensity of two-a-day practices for football before the season starts to prepare. I watched the toughest guys crumble and quit. They would quit on a full ride scholarship, and they would go back home and they would regret it for the rest of their lives. But they got beat by themselves. Fatigue makes cowards of us all, our coach would say. He was right. The other thing that is something that is really, really hard to do, that creates successful people that most people just refuse to consider as one of the most valuable assets in human interaction, and also for learning and wisdom and living a good life. Listening. Listening is so much harder to do than most people think. I rarely come across someone in a social setting that actually listens. Um, I grew up in a home where um, I was listened to by my parents. Not all the time. I mean, I had a lot of ideas as a kid, so I'm sure I had a lot to say. I had a lot to say for sure, and I had a lot of ideas. But I appreciate the fact that as a kid, and I still need this as a person. Um, my parents were like a sounding board, and they didn't always have to respond back necessarily, but I knew they were listening, and there was a lot of that interaction back and forth, and I knew that they were listening because of the things that would come back, and that's really important, you know. So um, so that also that taught me by just natural incentive that it pays to listen. And as I got out into the world, I was confused by the lack of people paying attention to, during one-on-one interactions and group interactions, And what I noticed most of the time is that people weren't listening. They were uh, they were preempting their message to the group or to that individual, uh, and it was all preemptive, um, positioning of self, in a status situation, all these little subtle things, um, and I just I found it very difficult to be heard by a lot of people. And I just realized that's just most people. Most people just are so busy in their heads and in their world that they just simply don't realize they're not listening. They think they're listening, but they're not. And that's no different from me too. There's aspects of the world that, um, I fooled myself thinking I was a great listener in every aspect of my life, and I wasn't, not at all. I was always really really good about certain things that I really was that were really interesting to me and important. I would listen, man. If it was about music or or business theory or something like that, or the history of any of that. I mean, I'm all ears. I will listen, watch, pay attention. I'll go anywhere. I'll talk to anybody about it. And I'll listen. I will be a student of the game of that stuff for the rest of my life. And that's easy to listen to. The thing that's hard to listen to is people constructively criticizing me. People who actually love me and who want the best for me. Um, I have a hard time listening to that. And I don't think I'm unique at all. In fact, I think I have pushed myself because of the mistakes I've made in my life by not listening, um, in some very important aspects of my life, you know? And I had to pay heavy prices for that. And I still pay prices for things that I didn't listen to when I was younger, and I thought that my own concept of the world that I had constructed at certain points in my life, I didn't need to listen because I already thought I had it kind of dialed in and figured out, because that's what society, I was reflecting society, and I just figured that's okay. And I realized we live in an unhealthy society, and nobody's listening really. They're so busy just trying to keep up and mirror with with such a sense of urgency and just feeling behind. I can sense it and feel it in so many people, even in myself for a lot of years. But when I really started to listen to the right people and stopped listening to the wrong people and the wrong messages that were not good for me, uh, funny thing, my life changed significantly and is changing significantly because I'm listening now. I'm finally listening the right way and to the right people for the right message, and seeking that out in what I read, what I watch, who I surround myself with, and I listen more intently than I ever have. And I listen to this thing up here a lot less, and that's something that I'm learning from wise people, you know. Um, in business, CEOs like me, and just the role and the job that I do in business, CEOs and usually have, um, kind of a group of advisors that they look to for advice before they make decisions, important decisions. They look to people that they respect greatly in critical aspects of business, and for finance and different business development and legal stuff, legal all that. And it should be no different in life. I mean, we should surround ourselves with with a great advisory team of people that have an aligned interest that with ours, and be willing to listen to that. It's really hard because we're all taught to be independent and self-sufficient, and especially in this society to be very independent, and my greatest failures came out of that mindset. uh, I was listening to the wrong people and the wrong message. So, it's really easy to mistake, and but the foundation of that mistake is not listening, like really not listening, and checking out on this autopilot, self will. I got it figured out. So I really kind of don't need to listen. I just need to kind of like connect with people and make some moves and tell people what they need to hear, and maybe pick up a couple of nuggets of information to to move my my personal stuff down the road a little bit. Like that's not listening. So I think it's an interesting topic, and I was in a couple interactions recently. Just, I mean, I could pick yesterday. I could pick the day before. I'm shocked. I'm shocked at how little people really listen, and really are so locked in their world. I watch people who are seriously struggling, have normal jobs, and they've got a house and cars and all that stuff, and all that. But I'm just saying, like, they're struggling. They barely can make it to work and back, and they got all these ailments, and then they're stuck on their phone, and they can't even pick their head up to look at the other person that comes into their home, basically. And but they've got it figured out, but they're falling apart. But they're not willing to listen to the people that actually care, and they're just caught on this hamster wheel to nowhere, man. And they're not listening. And I was no different. So, and I can still be no different. It's a daily a daily discipline in every interaction. I have to tell myself, and I have to really remember that. And I always have, because I remember my parents were, my dad in particular, man, both my parents, but you know, paying attention when someone was talking was, my dad could be really firm. He was hella cool, and he is. But when it came to that kind of stuff, he was real serious. It was like, no screwing around, man. Like, respect that person and listen to them. And that's an art that very few people even consider respecting or appreciating, to realize how powerful listening, the art of listening, really is, and how that translates into life success, business success, sports success, whatever, whatever craft it is that you have passion for. It starts by listening. Listen to the ones who are the masters, listen to the greats. And but in the walk of life, that's the hardest part, and that's the part that I kind of just like washed over a little bit, and I stayed focused on listening to the greats in business and sports and art and all that stuff, and I kind of forgot. Oh yeah, I got to stay focused also on listening to and remembering what are the fundamentals to staying on a good path, so I can do this deal and be happy about it and be fulfilled. And so I usually wake up, and I'm either reading, which is listening, or I'm watching someone. I always say I usually watch someone smarter than me to start my day, and I mean it. It's like, it's like, if there's so much wisdom out there, you guys, it's mind-boggling how much wisdom is just, people don't even see it or hear it, and it's right in front of their eyes all the time. People are willing to share how to be a millionaire just by little things, and but people don't hear it, see it, recognize it. Um, One thing I have observed, and this is without question, this is the secret of this whole video right here. The best listeners that I've ever met, like hands down that I've ever met, are extremely wealthy and successful and at the top of their game. They speak very few words. They listen. So, those are the people that I seek out. Those are my advisors. And that's interesting, isn't it? Every time I've been around a great person, doesn't matter what part of life you want to what category or whatever, but I'm just saying in the kind of traditional categories of business and sports and or very spiritual people who are really 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 connected, grounded humans. A lot of times it's all the same person. People don't realize that, but actually it takes that kind of person to become like really great. A lot of times it's at certain things. So I remember I would sit down with my friend Julie, and I met with one of my great friends and mentors, Ann Winblad, one of the great, probably considered the greatest female venture capitalists in the world. She is amazing, and she listens. I mean, listens. This woman listens like every single word that you're saying matters. And that's something that I felt as a child. I felt listened to, and I think that's really important. And I noticed that when I really listen, and I really try to listen when I'm interacting with people because that's how I was raised. Uh, but I recognize though that it's valuable to people because most people don't ever really feel listened to, and so it's very valuable, you guys. It really is, and it matters. It's not just about how can I get mine by listening and make more money and all that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like, yeah, that's a byproduct of being a good person, and it starts by listening, giving giving the other person the floor, and not needing to crowd them out with, yeah, but mine's better story and mine's this and I'm doing this better and blah 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 and blah. I'll sit in a circle of people and just go, dude, no one's even talking or listening about anything. They're just trying to one up each other before the conversation even gets started, And I've been there too, and I do get like that myself. I am not free of any of this, but I'm very conscious of it. And in the world that I live in and how I work and what I do is I work and build teams of human beings. And so you got to kind of listen to different points of view and perspectives to even have a concept of how it all fits together, So in my job, I must be a good listener. That is my skill. Like I have to listen to be able to understand how all this complex information and with human beings and with strategy and the competitive landscape and how all of this comes together. I have to listen and pay attention very, very closely on a daily basis. And it's really easy for me to get complacent in other areas of my life domestically, guys. Really easy to get, so focused on my craft that I may not listen as well. Sorry, Julie. On the girlfriend side versus the business side of the relationship that I have, which is this, the same girl. It's business and my girlfriend. So learning how to listen all the time the right way and not interject personal stuff preemptively and all that crap, that's childish and selfish. It's something I have to be very conscious of, and I'm trying to work on a daily basis because I'm not great at it either in a lot of areas of my life, but in other areas I am pretty good at it, and I do listen, I do pay attention, and it has paid off. It's paid off extremely well, especially now because I'm applying listening in the areas of my life where I really screwed things up by drinking too much and self-medicating because I was not listening to the right people. So, excuse me. And also in business, it's the same thing. I mean, I continue to surround myself with better people. I continue to eliminate bad people, and the people that are part of my team nowadays, they listen better. They're better listeners. They're better people. As a overall team, by far, that's critical to me more than anything else. And listening is about respect and about love and about caring about people and showing that you care to even get started. And so the way that we manage our business on a daily basis, I mean, I listen to the team on conference calls. Sometimes I'm on them, and sometimes I'm in the office working on the next railroad track to lay down in front of the team to be able to keep rolling. As a team, that's my job. And I'm telling you, when I listen to this team, when I'm kind of an outside observer, and I'm hearing how they listen and they respect each other, and it all comes together in the way that it flows. That's because people are listening to each other, and they're really listening, not just about the X's and O's of the business, but about their life. I mean, things happen, man. Life happens, and we have managed through some really, really tough adversity in this startup. Deaths and like surprising, not there was some shocking stuff that has happened in the first year of this startup, and by listening and caring and looking at the bigger picture, we were able to walk through the whole thing as a team, and the results of that are they're phenomenal. They're amazing, and that's what it's all about. Listening is about caring, and that results in success. So, and a happy life. It sounds simple, man, but listening is one of the foundations of a successful life. I now believe that firmly, without question. So, I hope you guys have a great day. I'm going to try to listen better today, and it's a beautiful day out. Let's go knock it out. All right. See you guys. Take care.